I'm trying to bring together in a short period of time quite a lot of different things. So it's a balance between giving you too much information and too little information. So being patient with me, maybe in the afternoon after lunch, you know, the classic time after lunch. You know, as Rex said yesterday, you know, mind is fighting against body, you know. That might be the stage where you can go, oh, there's so much in here. Okay, so I'm trying to fit the essentials. That's why it's called In a Nutshell. The essentials into this short tutorial. And we don't have exercises, but I do expect, I hope that you can give me some feedback and we can talk about one or two things. Okay. So it's in a nutshell, and guess what? Usability is something I've got to be honest with you. Do you know, I've been testing for 35, maybe more years. The first job I ever did was in software testing. I didn't know that at the time that that would be my career, by the way. But I started doing that and I thought, oh, this is cool. So I stayed. Now, I've not really thought about usability as being so important until the last 2 or 3 years. And I started to see how much focus, how much impact usability has on our lives. That was true 10 years ago as well, but I just didn't see it. And I think that slowly many of us, many testers, are starting to realize that as well. And usability is a subject that is going to be more and more important. Just look at your mobiles, just look at the apps, just look at the stuff that you do. It's all user interface these days. So it's an important aspect of software testing, and you know, that's why I think that I'm promoting that, and that's why we're sitting here today. Morning. Hi. So those are the objectives then. We cannot, in 3 hours, cover everything to do with usability. That's why it's called In a Nutshell. It's the main subjects. Explain how to evaluate usability. I would like to give you some idea at the end of the day, the end of the morning, that you can go away and say, I know what's special. I know about testing maybe. I know about what's special about usability testing. Where is the difference? Where is the thing that I need to watch out for? And okay, this is I hope a good start for you if you're starting off with usability, with that subject. Give you a start and say, that's interesting, I can find out more about this. Or I can take a further course or a further qualification. So that's the idea, to get you started with the subjects. Am I standing in your way? Sorry. Just if I'm standing in your way, or just go like that or something, okay? I understand what you mean then. So, you know, bad usability we experience all the time, right? You know, what happens? We have applications really difficult to use. We have applications where we say, it takes so much effort to actually use this application. It could be that you also say, well, this application functionally works, but I'm supposed to be having a good experience with this. It's no fun. It's boring. Remember, lots of software is there for our entertainment or to give us information. It's not always business driven. So This is the kind of area where we are working with usability. Now, this is my friend. He's going to be introducing important points to you occasionally. Okay. So my friend Sheik is going to point out an important point. Software can work exactly as specified and still have usability problems. That's an important point. So if you're looking at functionality, if you're looking at the normal things that you test, maybe performance, that can be all okay, but you can still have an application that is not acceptable because of usability. Important point. So thank you for reminding us of that. Now, have you experienced bad usability? Do you get angry about certain things? Is there anything, give me an example. When was the last time that you thought, hey, this is crazy. This doesn't, how am I supposed to do this? I can't work with this. Can you remember? Or is everything lovely? I'll give you one example from my hotel. I'm staying at the Ascot Hotel across the road. What happens in the Ascot Hotel? You go in, you see a sign. You just arrived. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. You just arrived, and you see a sign, and it says, "No durian." You think to yourself, "What is that?" And then you get in the lift, and you stand there. You press your button for your room, for your floor. Nothing happens. So you stand there, and you think, nothing going on here. I wonder what should happen. And then somebody comes along, takes their card out of their pocket and swipes it across the little thing, and it all goes, lit up and fine. Yeah, okay, look, I'm an international traveller as well, I should know these things. But it's an example of usability problems. You just needed a little sign that says, please use card to select your floor. It's done. There's nothing there, you just have to guess. So lifts, elevators, the Americans call them elevators, the English call them lifts. Lifts are full of usability. Does anybody have a favourite usability problem? One where they go crazy? Or does everything? Come on, be honest.
I work with a defect tracking system, and it has a big screen, a lot of columns, a lot of filters. Okay. But in order to go to the other end of the screen, I have to scroll all the way down, and scroll all the way, and then go back up.
This is one of the pleasures that Windows brought to us, isn't it?
And I hate it.
Yeah, don't we all? Don't we all? And what you hate as well is that you fill out the form, okay? It's like our travel, when we book a journey, a travel on our system at work, you fill out the form and you say, I've filled that form out, all the rest of it is just text under here, and it comes back and says, no, you're not done. You look through the thing again, and you have to guess what it is you didn't do right. Okay? And then you go, well, I've got my name, and that's all right, and this is okay. And then you realize, you have to scroll down, like you say, all the way through all of this tiny text to a little tiny checkbox that says, yes, I've read all of this tiny little text. Click, everything's fine. And I spent some time programming as well. In my long career as a tester, I admit I spent about 4 years as a programmer. I guess it was good for me. And I used to program stuff, and I remember my customer coming back to me and saying, I can't, your usability is crazy on this form. And I'm thinking, well, come on, you know, I think it's really cool. And I said, yes, but if we fill out the form and there are 4 mistakes on it, what you are doing is saying, okay, go to this field and give you a message, and you fix it, and then it says, but you've got something else wrong. You fix that. But you've got. Couldn't you please just tell us in one message the things that we've done wrong? Otherwise, we're getting really frustrated, you know. That's all, these are classic examples of usability problems. We get them all the time. All the time. And we're talking mostly about software, okay? That's where we come from. But it's hardware as well, you know? The usability in your car. Where are the buttons positioned? Where are things taking place? And so I would like to share with you now my coffee machine. This is my coffee machine at home in Germany. It looks good. It's nice and shiny, but I hate this thing. It makes nice coffee, but guess what? You cannot tell if it's switched on. Did you ever hear anything so crazy? So it's got a button around the back here where you can switch on and off. There is nothing to tell you if it's actually got power or not. Nothing. So you have all the time this game that you're playing. Well, you can leave it switched on all the time, but that uses energy. So you have this little game. I think that you're on now. So I'll switch the switch once. And no, I won. I was actually off. Okay. And then, so eventually you find out that it's on. Then you know it's on, okay? And then you think, right, I'll have a coffee now. It's maybe a little late in the evening. Well, shouldn't drink coffee late in the evening. And then you think, right, do I want a full cup or half a cup? Now, tell me, that's a cup. It's full. When it's not a cup, it's a bottle. When that bottle is half full, okay, it's there, okay? So now in my country, when you fill up something, you fill up from the bottom, you know? It fills up like that, unless it's different here. It is. So why would it be that they say full cup button is at the bottom, half a cup is at the top? You naturally think, I've got 2 buttons to choose from. If I want a full cup, press the button at the top. So guess how many times I get the wrong coffee? Guess how many times I want a half a cup, put my half cup down here, press the wrong button, and I get a full cup, and guess what happens then? So, and water, you know, water. You have to fill up the water. It doesn't tell you if it's got enough water. That's another little game. Okay, maybe I need a more expensive coffee machine. But these are things that I would expect to see. So it's like, are you pressed full? But haha, you're getting half. Or, you know, I'll let you press everything and then I'll say, there's no water there. So you go off, get some water, then you come back and then you press the button and it says, there's not enough coffee there. Should we fill up the coffee? So, you know, that's usability gone crazy. So you're going into the kitchen, you want the coffee and you're spending 5 minutes messing around, getting frustrated. So thank you, Philip Seiko. I'm sure that you're not the only one that treats people like that. So as we see, it's around us everywhere, this usability, so it's important. So what happens if we have bad usability? These are the risks that we take. Our applications simply get rejected. And when I was a programmer, one of my programs got rejected. I said to somebody, I think that your system should work like this. This is the nice user interface. Isn't it brilliant? And they rejected it. I said, you can't reject it. And they said, well, let me show you how we work. So they invited me to their offices and said, do you know what? We work with our fingers. We type in information all the time. We have hotkeys, we know the sequence of everything. We have to enter data really, really fast. And over the last 10 years, we can do this almost blind. We can type this information in so quickly. And now you've come along with this crazy thing called Windows. And we have to use this strange little thing called a mouse. So what do we have to do? We have to go into a dialogue, we have to go click. And then we enter something. Then we go click. And then we go through a few other things. And at the end, the button, accept, click it. And they said, do you know what? It takes us more than twice the time to enter our data. Take it away. Okay, so I learned my first usability issue there. Functional software with a usability issue can still be actually rejected. Now, if you are in the area of like mobile apps and things like this, you will find if your usability is bad, nobody will use your app. You will get 0 sales. The internet will say to you, people will give you bad reports on the internet, it will not fly, it will not be successful. And worse still, people will think in the future, oh, I'm not going to try that company again. Loss of reputation, loss of sales, efficiency is affected, motivation goes down, motivation of the users. So just imagine that you are these people and you're typing in this information all the time. And I come to you with this new wonderful system. And I say to you, this is it. And you say, I don't like that. I'm not so efficient. And I say, well, do you know what? That's just hard luck for you. Okay? So I'm the boss now. You've got to use it. You must use it. Okay? What happens? Your motivation goes down. Every day, you're having to use this. Every day. And every day you're saying, this is crazy. So your motivation will go down. It will. So there's a lot of different things. And maybe you will like these strange things here. Maybe you just give up. Maybe you just say, look, okay, if that's what you want. You know, you just give up. So it can be significant. Now, recognizing good usability means that you can tick most of these boxes, okay? It's fun to use, yeah. Okay, it's for your work, so we're not expecting you to laugh and chuckle, but it's, you know, it's pleasant, let's say, to use. If it's a game, it's fun to use. It looks good. It's attractive, it's easy to learn. It's intuitive to use, unlike the lift that I was talking about. It looks professional. It's accessible. We'll talk about accessibility later, but accessible means that if you have a disability, if you don't hear or see very well, that you can still use the application. It's accessible. It helps me do my job. All of these things are important attributes of good usability. So let's look at some basic concepts in the nutshell. That was just introducing, if you like, the area. And what I'd like to do is just define very briefly what usability is. It's the extent to which a software product can be used by specific users to achieve specific goals. These are the goals. I'll look at those in a moment. In a specific context of use. So goals to be achieved by specific users in a specific context. Those three things. Okay, what do I want to do? Can I achieve that? What users are involved? Are they members of the public? Are they people that know the application well? Are they special types of users, user groups? And what kind of thing do you want to actually achieve? What goal? Is it effectiveness, efficiency, or satisfaction? Look at that in just one moment. Now, just as an overview, when we talk about usability, it's very often an overall term, okay? But actually we're looking at three different related issues. Usability itself, something called user experience. By the way, if you're in the usability area, people never say usability experience, they say UX. Okay? How's the UX in this? You mean usability, user experience. And accessibility. Those three areas are they all come in the general area of usability, but they're special areas that we look at. We will look at those now. So, usability, how well can a software product be used? Based upon these key aspects. Now, effectiveness means I can do my job. Okay? The tasks that I need to do, it is possible for me to do them. Basically, very closely related to functionality. Efficiency, I can do my job efficiently in the time. My example that I gave you, where my application was rejected, was an example where the effectiveness was okay. They could do their job, but they could not do their job efficiently. Okay, there was something wrong with the application that made it very, very difficult. Lots of different steps to go through, and so on. And satisfaction, basically saying, I like to use this application. This is good. So those three main aspects. Now, important aspects, as I said in the introduction of the definition, who is using, which groups, which roles, which levels of experience, who is doing the using, and in what context, what kinds of things are they doing, what equipment are they using, like the coffee machine would be equipment. Is it an aircraft? I've spent a long time working with aircraft. So that is a feature of usability. And the environment. So it can be significant, especially the equipment. Let me give you a little story. A long time ago, I worked on an aeroplane, a military aeroplane, and we had a usability department. There were two people in it, and one of the girls doing that thought she was really good. So she said, "Okay, look, we're going to put a new button inside your cockpit to do something. Can't tell you what it is. To do something." And so the pilot said, "I tell you what, you're going to go on a flight with me." Okay. So they put her in the back of the airplane, in the cockpit there, not the back of the airplane, in the cockpit of the airplane. And the pilot thought he was really naughty, so he flew really fast and all over the place. So she was feeling pretty bad before he even started. And then he said, "Right, we'll now do a turn." Okay. So she's sitting there, she's just trying to hold on, And he said, "Okay, now we're doing what's called a tight G turn, very, very tight. When you go through a tight turn, your body feels heavier and heavier and heavier, okay? So your arm that is weighing maybe a pound feels like it's 5 pounds heavier. He said, now, in the middle of the turn, now, press that button. And apart from trying not to feel sick, she said, I can't reach the button. You know, and so that was the lesson learned. If you design things in the classroom or on paper and do that, and you don't think about the equipment, you can be in trouble. Okay. Just a bit of fun, that. She never criticised those pilots again. Okay, so now user experience is the person's perceptions. Okay, now that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one because, you know, we as testers from IT, we like things to be precise, don't we? We like to have clear yes, no's. That's not clear. That user experience is something really difficult to actually quantify, but it is there. So, I think it's a little bit like considering some art. Do you sometimes go to an art gallery? Been to an art gallery? Now, my wife, and actually me as well, we like sometimes modern art, not just pictures that look like photographs, but kind of interpretation, modern. So you go along and you stand like, we went to a museum before Christmas before December last year, and it was in New York. We went to a Museum of Modern Art in New York. We thought, this is good. So, you know, you're standing there in front of pictures. I say pictures. It's white. It's a piece of paper, and it's got a line drawn through it. And it's hanging on the wall. And there are people standing there and saying, wow, just look at that. Can you see the interpretation? Can you see the meaning of life in that? I'm thinking, no. No. And my wife is looking at us like, well, that's interesting. And so you can guess what I said, you know, typical man maybe, oh, bloody hell, you know, what's this? Sorry for swearing, but you know, the kind of thing. So it depends on what you experience. User experience. My user experience was low for that picture. And the same goes for your software. People will experience this differently. It's like considering a piece of art. And this can drive us crazy as testers, because then you don't know if that's a fault or not. Should I log this as a problem? Yes, you should. But what do you write down? Well, they feel like they're not enjoying using the system. Go to the developer and say, they feel like they're not enjoying using the system. You know what the developer's going to say? You know, it's really difficult. That's where our lives in testing for usability is sometimes really difficult on that level. So it's like considering a piece of art. Emotions, psychological responses, what I believe, what are my preferences, what are my perceptions, am I biased? You know, branding. Do you know branding? It makes your perceptions different. You know, you see two t-shirts in a shop. They're both identical. One of them has got a little crocodile symbol on it. It says to you, ooh, that's got to be good. And the other one doesn't. It's branding. Okay, so your perceptions influence what you feel. You buy the t-shirt with the crocodile, you feel good in it. There's a crocodile on my shirt. You know? User experience. So, and very often user experience plays a huge role in the entertainment industry. Now this is just an example. I don't play this game. I think it, you know? And the point is, we assume, don't we? Those are the recommendations. Oh, everybody's going to do it. It will just work. If I say so, I'm the boss, it's going to work. It doesn't work that way. Power alone does not make change happen. You know, we have a wonderful story. I repeat it sometimes. Now you're getting some English history. There once was a king of England. It's not a poem. A king of England. His name was King Canute. And he thought he was so powerful that he could just command things to happen. Okay? And so he decided one day to get his people to carry him down from London, from his palace, to the south coast of England, which is about 50 miles, to the sea. And when he got to the sea, he said, I will now show you that I am powerful. I command the water to go back. I guess what happened? He got wet. So carried him back again to London. He said, how could that possibly happen? Now, this is a strange story we learn in England, in the school, King Canute, whatever. The message is, you can't just make things happening by commanding. You need people. You need to involve the people. You need to get the people involved in a process of change. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How to do that. What to think about. What the steps are to follow through. What to be aware of. And then you can take your lovely, shiny list of recommendations and implement them. And get them working. And one day say, hey, look, we had 10 recommendations. 7 of them, they work now. 3, So, you know, that's what we need to learn. And I guess it's also useful for anything. Much of what you will learn is not related specifically to testing, of course we're in the testing area, but it relates to any change. Any change in your lives, you will see some way of dealing with that. Now, I'm not a psychologist, so, you know, I'm not going to go that far, but it will give you some ways of thinking about problems, you know? Good. So that's our subject. Now, let's have a look at where we are. First of all, I need my little pointer. Oh, who am I? Graham. I'm from England, still part of Europe, just. And I live in Germany. And I've lived in Germany, in Munich, south of Germany, for about 30 years. So my working language is German. So I'm glad that I can speak English for a change. Because I can do English better than German. Okay? So and I work for a company called T-Systems. That's part of the German telecommunications organization. Do you have a T-Systems in Malaysia? Somewhere around here, actually. Yeah. So maybe you've seen us around. Anyhow, that's just me. And so, you know, I live in Germany and, yeah, have a few hobbies, you know, I like aircraft and football and all this sort of stuff, typical men stuff, I guess you call it. And I love my garden. So occasionally I take some pictures from my garden. This is not my garden. This is somebody else's garden, okay, but occasionally I take pictures of that. So, what are we going to look at? How to implement, that's the emphasis, implement changes. Not just decide about them, implement them. Understand above all the human aspects of process change. Because you can't just change processes without people. I may say that about 10 times in the next 2 hours, 3 hours. appreciate the different people you need to make processes, oh, hang on a minute. Step back. Appreciate the different people that you need to make change work. In other words, you can't do everything yourself. You need other people to help you. What sort of people are they? Who should you be looking to help you implement your changes? That's what we'll look at as well. And we'll look at some interesting ideas from other people. We'll look at some areas called tipping points. Have you heard of tipping points? Tipping point? Hear it in the news sometimes. Oh, when this politician said this statement, it was a tipping point. It was like a decisive step that caused a whole lot of things to happen. Okay, so one small step, one small action, one small thing that I said caused a big effect. It's called a tipping point, and they can be useful for us in a positive way if you use them positively. So we'll look at things like that as well. So we've got a lot of fun things to look at this afternoon, but I also want you to give me your ideas on things, okay? Especially your experiences from your work environment, okay, from your projects. Because I guess you've all got your experiences, okay? Trying to make changes, trying to improve things. Did it work? Didn't it work? Why didn't it work? So I want you to tell me that. Okay. Don't feel frightened about saying anything. No, nobody else will know. And if you don't understand something I said, any of you, just say, can you say that again, please? Sometimes in my enthusiasm, I get carried away and start talking fast. And if I use any strange English expressions, just say, what does that mean, you know? Okay, so let's start, shall we? Well, we did just start. Hey, do we need to test? Is testing necessary? What happens if we don't test? Is our software quality good? Usually not, huh? Testing is generally necessary. It's a major cost area, so it means that when we are looking at change in testing, we are looking to make testing more efficient, more effective, provide better quality, find more bugs, introduce particular improvements. And we're doing that because testing is a major cost item on the budget. Testing costs money, so we are very often trying to improve testing to make those costs less, or to actually use the money that we have better. So that's where test process improvement comes in, and that means, improvement means change. So it's no surprise that we need to change things. Now, what happens if we try to impose change? I told you the story of King Canute. Okay, so you learned some English history today. But what you don't do, or what you cannot do, is say, everything will be better tomorrow. From now on, everything will change. Can you say that? You can't say that in your projects, can you? Can you walk into the project office tomorrow and say, hey, I went on a tutorial about usability testing. From now on, we're going to do that. Right. The statement of intent is good, but does it mean that tomorrow we're doing it? No, not really. So we're going to look at maybe some examples. let's take usability as one. I know that you spoke to me about introducing it, so I'm looking at you a little bit there. But let's take some examples of changes that typically affect you in your projects. Can you think of any? What are the typical changes that maybe you've tried to make in recent times? What do you think? Can you remember any that were maybe good or successful, or maybe they failed? What was the change that was needed? Got any ideas for me? Think about them with testing? Somebody suggest how to improve testing somewhere? Somebody come and give you a course? Somebody come and say, hey, we should be doing this? Any ideas? I can give you some typical ones, but I'd rather give you the chance to tell me. What kinds of things change? Maybe we've got a new tester. That was a change. We're introducing automation. We decided to introduce automation. Good one. It's a change we're going to make. Let me write that down. So, I'm taking usability as well. So, the changes. Give you a chance to think while I'm writing this down. We will do more usability testing. We will do more test automation. Any more changes that hit you recently? Anything that happened, or is every day the same? Is every day the same? Year after year after year? Is it always the same? Did you get new applications to test? Did you get new things to do? Did you get something that changed? And?
Recently, we need to do support cloud.
You need to?
Cloud release. Our system is to cloud.
The cloud, I'm sorry. Move to the cloud.
Yes.
Whoa! We will move to the cloud, whatever that means. Which particular cloud, I don't know, but there we are. Good, yeah, that's a technology change. Well, okay, that's one or two. Has anybody heard of a magical word called agile? Did somebody at some stage, at some meeting, or in some press release, or in some decision say, we're going agile? We are going to be agile. Yeah? Did you have you heard? No, not yet. Anybody said this to you? Yes? Okay. It will come to you, okay? Maybe it's a yes, and yeah, you've been through this. But I guess it's going to be there. And do you know what? Changes happen subtly. Sometimes they happen like a sudden thunderbolt, oh, we're going agile. And sometimes they happen a little slowly. Do you know what? Oh, we're going to talk about triggers in a minute. But conferences, what you're doing now, what you're doing at conferences, you're listening to people and you're thinking, okay, that's going to change. a lot of people are talking about what's going to change in the future. Did you hear the guy talking about everything's going to be bots and robots and stuff going around, and these testers, you don't need them anymore. Don't pay too much. Don't get worried by that. But that's a signal that there's change on the way. This is in IT always the case. IT is always changing. It's always improving, we hope. So how do you introduce that? How do you make that effective? So let me just put this one up here, and we can refer back to those maybe later. We're going agile, in the cloud agile, with automation involved and usability as well. So all of these things could be combined in one big thing or individually. They are changes that we will see, and we need to manage them. So that's what we're talking about. So changes, what happens? Are we ready for those changes? Well, very often it's about a certain culture. It does help if your organisation where you are is used to changing. Okay, so if it's perfectly normal for change to happen in your organisation, then you have like a so-called culture of change. Improvement is normal for us. That will make things a lot easier for you. But anyway, there's always this issue of what is change. Is it normal? Is it something we can manage? And the main, well, one of the main points is, you know, you cannot change processes, you cannot change technologies, you cannot change anything without people. If you do it without the people, you have nothing. What are you without people in your organisation? IT organisations are nothing without their people. They're just pieces of paper. That's maybe what they have. But apart from that, not much, unless you're involved in products and things, okay. But you don't have much without your people. So how do you get people involved? This is going to be something we're going to look at. But we can't just say that and say, yeah, think about the people and that's good. We need to have some concept, some idea of how to involve people, of the steps to go through when we change things. If we don't have that, we cannot manage the change successfully. So we need to know some steps in what we call the fundamental change process. We'll look at those steps. We need to know what to do and when. We need to know what the issues are. What can happen? What are the risks? What can cause our change to fail? Focus on the people. Where do people fit into the change? What can we do to help ourselves and others to change? So, how can we help ourselves to be more adaptable to change, to appreciate change? And we're going to be looking at tipping points a little bit from a guy called Malcolm Gladwell. We're going to be looking at some of the work from these people here, Naomi Cart and Virginia Satir, who have looked at this area and come up with some ideas. And actually, maybe moving back to who am I and what do I do, one of the jobs that I do in my free time, it must be crazy, is for the ISTQB, for the International Software Qualification Board. I'm responsible for the expert level. So we have foundation level, advanced level, expert level. one of the areas that we have at Expert is called improving the test process. And part of improving the test process is, guess what? What you're going to hear this afternoon. So it was lucky for me that I was able to go to conferences and listen to people like Naomi Carton talking about this process, this human aspect. And actually it was several years ago, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to suggest that as being something that we have in our syllabus that people learn at expert level for test managers about how to do things properly, not just come up with a list of improvements, but how to get them implemented. And actually, that is a whole course. So I guess what you're having this afternoon is a shortened version of a 4-day course that would include lots and lots of discussions and lots of exercises and things like that, but it's basically that content. So I've been lucky enough to find the right people. So this is the fundamental change process then. These are the steps, the main steps. They've got a kind of a catchy kind of a headline. Set the stage, decide what to do, make it happen, make it stick. 4 steps to get your process of change organized. That's the fundamental change process. These are the individual steps or activities associated with these main steps. We're going to look at those. We're going to get an appreciation of what's involved. And you're going to come back to me and say, what does that mean? What does that mean if I'm changing to become agile? Okay? You're going to tell me that, I hope, or discuss or tell or give you my experience, but I'm happier if you give me what your feelings are. Test automation or going to the cloud or whatever. Right, well, so there we are. We're testing away. It's Monday morning. Everything's just fine. Another Monday. And then something happens. And suddenly you realize that we need to change something. Okay, so basically we need to recognize the need for changing something first before we can change it. Okay. Do we need to change something? If you're in test management, especially, but also testers, you must recognize it. Is there a need to change something here? And we'll look at that first, and then we'll look at the next step, create a sense of urgency. Okay, we've got to do this because, and then establish an improvement team. And we'll look at the team, the people that you need. Right. There you go. Now, what can be a reason to change? Well, if you're a very mature organization, maybe it's just something you do. It's part of your policy. It's part of your organization. We improve continuously. It might be part of a total quality management thing. It might be just something that's in your guidelines for your company that says, look, every year we do a review or an assessment and decide what needs changing. In your project, every 6 months we do an evaluation. If you're in Agile, at the end of every iteration, at the end of every sprint, you have a chance to give feedback. Retrospective, it's called. These are opportunities for you to recognize change. But very often that's part of your policy. Okay? So that's nice. If that's in place, you're doing well. But sometimes the need for change is something else. We see the need ourselves, okay? It's not just somebody saying, do this. It's something that we realize ourselves. We're in a traffic jam going to work. We're in a project meeting. We're in some situation where we're relaxing maybe, and then suddenly we think, that's not right, we need to change that. It could be that you've had a small chat in the coffee room. It's what happens a lot in Germany, I don't know about here. People gather, coffee rooms are important places because people come out of their little offices and they meet and then they all disappear back to their offices. It's not open plan in Germany very much. We have little places that we can hide in, and you come out late, go off and get a coffee and then go back to it. So meetings in the coffee room, really important, because that's a chance to interact. Hey, what do you think? That test plan, hopeless. We need to do more planning. The estimates, the plan, hopeless. 50% incorrect. Should we accept this? No. Next time we'll improve. Yeah, but how did we do the estimating? I don't know, we just went like this. Well, we should improve then, shouldn't we? Let's use some method for estimating. Let's get some metrics. That's a good idea. And so it's like this kind of quick chat. You think, well, we need to change. It could be just an idea you had, like I said, in the train or however you get to work. It's bad if you're having these ideas in the middle of the night, Write this down. I once heard this from somebody, by the way. He said, he got to the stage where he was having so many good ideas in the night that he left a piece of paper and pencil by his bedside. So he could write them down, these fantastic ideas. And this is the funny thing. And every time when he woke up in the morning and read what he had written down was absolute nonsense, total nonsense. So be careful about where you're having your ideas, okay? Because you're sort of like in a different world when you're dreaming. Okay. All right, so notice our policy. Yeah. We have the idea ourselves. Yeah. Oh, I bet you've seen this one. Well, maybe not this guy, but disaster has struck. That's a very common reason to need to improve. Now, this guy that's looking pretty glum I'm pleased to report, was the manager of my bank, my former bank, called the Royal Bank of Scotland, that went bankrupt. Is now owned by the UK government. And whilst that bank was being managed by the government, a small glitch, a small problem happened in the process. And it cost the bank £125 million. It's quite a lot of money. I don't know how many ringgits that is, but it's a lot. Okay, many customers had no access to their accounts for weeks. Okay, this isn't just about, I can't get 50 euros out to buy the shopping. This is about, I can't pay my employees. This is about, I'm getting no pay. This is about, I can't pay my customers for the services. Everything fell apart. Okay, so this is a big deal. And so here he is, fool that he is, going out onto the streets of London and saying, we have found the person responsible. Of course it wasn't him. He didn't think it was him. We found an inexperienced operative somewhere in the dungeons of their offshore site in India, I think it was, that accidentally wiped information during a routine software upgrade, and we have taken him out and dealt with him. So